Well, thank you for joining us this evening. And I'm Sue Rose. I'm with the Special Education faculty at the University of Minnesota. My particular area is deaf and hard of hearing, or what we like to say, students with varying degrees of hearing. And because we really serve a wide range of students with a wide range of ability to hear. And so we're instead of saying deaf and hard of hearing and categorizing kids, we're really saying kids with varying degrees of hearing. And this evening, I'd really like to talk to you about a project that we've been working on for the past, I'd say, 10 years. That's actually grown into a piece of software. And it really has evolved through teacher input and teacher requests. So it's not an administrative tool, it really is a teacher tool. And it came from teachers asking for a tool. Previously, we called it Avenue Deaf Hard of Hearing. However, so many teachers who are working with ELL students or other types of students, or at-risk students, were using the software, so we changed it to progress monitoring. And I hope that you have an opportunity to use it after listening to my presentation today. E-based technology and progress monitoring was developed here at the University of Minnesota, built on the research that was done by Stan Dino in curriculum-based measurement, and the subsequent research that was done by Chris Espin and Kristen McMaster and a host of other people here at the university and at other universities as well. So we're really building on to the curriculum-based measurement perspective and to progress monitoring. We were sort of borrowing from other places. We were borrowing from Dibbles, and we were borrowing from Ames Web, and we were borrowing checklists, but there was no fidelity in these checklists. There was no real usable functional tool, and teachers were really frustrated. Kids don't seem to be progressing. So we started working about 10 years ago on curriculum-based measurement with teachers and letting them give us the feedback. Actually, as teachers, Sue Meredith from Minneapolis Public School and Dar Bloom from Minnesota State Academy for the Deaf, who said, we've got to do something, we've got to do something. They were all revved up and they made me do it. It was really their idea. I kept saying, no, so I did something else, let's work on language. And I said, no, we got to do it. So we did. So I went over to the learning technology people, Simon Hooper at the time, who was here, who's now at Penn State, and Charles Miller, who was here at the University of Minnesota. And I said, I've got a problem. We need to develop something that will give us a very usable, functional tool that's highly motivating. And we sat around and brainstormed, first of all, to be a game-like format, because, kids are total gamers. Every kid's a gamer. The technology people just don't like to leave things where they are. It's use that technology for what it's for its functional purposes. So let's give the kids immediate feedback as they start taking their little tasks, which we did. We built in immediate feedback. The third thing is that we would save teachers time. That's always been the theme song of Stan Dino's. And then what we listened to were the teachers saying kids don't see themselves progressing. They are always kind of getting labeled as at first grade reading level, second grade reading level, and they get so tired of being labeled as 1, 2, and 3. And so we graduated the steps at half grade reading levels rather than at 1 grade level. So it takes a long time to get to the next year. So we graduated it at half years. Our software has 4 different tasks in it right now, and we're developing a 5th task that we'll be adding on in the not too distant future. Slash is kind of an invented type of software or task that we borrowed. We're using very liberally from the research that we did early on with the test of silent reading comprehension fluency, or the TOSGREF, developed by Hamill and a bunch of other people. We use that test with deaf and hard of hearing students in a paper pencil task, and found out that deaf and hard of hearing kids really liked the task, but it was so difficult to use because of the steps. So we put the steps into a smaller scale, into the reading milestones silent reading comprehension test, which is paper and pencil, and then we converted it over into a task that's on the website. Otherwise, it becomes just a random word find. If they just went in and found any word. So they really have to comprehend the sentence before they can put the slashes in the right place. So it's measuring reading fluency. The other thing we did with this task is, because deaf students are very, very dependent on a language base. They come in with a language base that's in the development stage. Rather than reading alone, the reading tasks like phoneme recognition or phoneme segmentation or word identification, our kids really need that language base. Patterns that follow the developmental sequence of sentence patterns. So level 1 is really noun and a verb, and level 2 becomes a little bit more difficult. Level 3 becomes even more difficult. So if you're working with ELL students, this also addresses the whole issue of language structure and knowledge of language development. And then we have, so this is the maze, and so it's a time test. It lasts for 1 minute, and it also records the student's scores on the bottom. You can see that bar on the bottom, and the levels are marked by animals, by the animals at the bottom. So the students don't go from level 1 to level 2, they go from animal to animal. So it's like the red book, the green book, but it's really competing against themselves. And then the final task is the oral reading fluency, which we don't use with our students who are deaf or hard of hearing, but it's available for students who are hearing. And the oral reading fluency, the maze, and the slash test are all available for the iPad app. We did survey teachers. We have about 300 teachers using the Avenue system right now. We have about 700 students who are using it from grades 1 through 12. And our reading level goes from 1 through 6th grade level, but there's a lot of students who are in high school who are using some of our tasks as well. You can get an overview, or you can request an account and we'll send it to you and use it as much as you can. You can delete it later when you don't want to use it. But feel free to ask questions at any time or send an email. Thank you very much.